Hello, welcome back, or just welcome if you haven't seen the first part. This is part 2 of the 3-part podcast that I did with a few of my friends recently. I don't need to waffle on in the intro this time, so go ahead and enjoy the video. Enjoy the video. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the representation of B.A.M.E, whether that's in media, the TV, or day-to-day life. In a nutshell, what do you think that representation is?
Well, do you know what? Watching a lot of adverts, you see so many more ethnically diverse adverts. Clearly, something is being done. Unfortunately, the other side of that is when they have the black family. So is it Waitrose or M&S or something? Do that advert every year. And there was an uproar.
This is what I read on Twitter. Yeah. This is not representative of a British family.
Yeah. Even when I go on JD or ASOS and I'm looking at clothes, I go, oh look, there's a mixed race bloke wearing those clothes. He's got a very similar skin tone to me. Yeah. And I know if I wear that, it's going to look like that. Yeah. This stuff is being helpful. I certainly have seen an increase in representation.
My fiance M, she's an actor and she's typical white, blonde, pretty girl. She better be pretty. White people are actually now finding it hard to get acting roles because there's been a huge push, and you've obviously noticed it. Yeah.
Just want to be saying, we don't want white people to stop having work.
Yeah.
We just want more baby people to have work.
That did then start a conversation, or is it now going to go the other way? But it has to go really far one way, so then it can start becoming in the middle. I think that's the idea. But then it's just causing a bit more prejudice. I think is going to be a bit of a side effect to it.
I know you don't really watch that much TV. What about characters in TV? I'll just use a quick example that comes to my mind. Idris Elba being linked with James Bond.
Oh yeah.
People went nuts. Some people went nuts for the good.
We can start with Ariel. Let's start with Ariel.
Sure. Yeah.
In fact, let's rewind it back a little bit. Let's look at Annie. When they did a black Annie, my lord, they weren't having it. Let's go more recent. Let's go Lord of the Rings. They defined some elves as being of chestnut skin. But then when the new Lord of the Rings series came out, and there was a lot of black elves, there was black hobbits or the pre-hobbits, they kicked off. And that's another group that we don't even fully associate with. They kicked off because there was black elves.
Yeah,
it's an elf. Like, it's not even real.
It can't be black.
But it's the same with the mermaid. The mermaid's not real.
It's the same. It's the same as the mermaid. There are little girls and little lads from our era who would never have believed they could have been movie stars in a certain aspect. Who believed they could have been presenters. Oh, what's her name? Played for Arsenal.
Oh, Alex Scott.
Alex Scott.
Yeah.
By the way, she's one of the best ones.
She's incredible, yeah.
Her analysis, her attention to detail, even if she was crap, it doesn't matter. But people absolutely lose their minds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But representation is so important in terms of how far you can aspire, because you don't know it's possible until suddenly you see someone that looks like you doing something. The power of that is unbelievable.
There was this video on Facebook where children of different colours, they would see a mermaid, they saw the trailer for Ariel and saw her, and their reactions are just so heartwarming. It's incredible.
I understand when there's a solid description of a character. You know, say for instance, Alex Rider is a blonde-haired guy with blue eyes, and you go, okay, that is the character. What I personally think and would like is just make black characters. You don't have to take the white ones and make them black and disrupt everything. But the only thing is that these old white characters have big names and they've been around a long time. So if you can make them black, better. I do agree with that.
I think that's really key because it brings us full circle back to what Emily was saying. Back in the day, the characters were made for a white audience.
Exactly.
The girls that were reacting to the Ariel, and was it Ariel?
Yes,
and effectively, it was so rare to them that it made them feel so proud. Then tie that into what you're saying about how whether it has been historically written for white people, somewhere in the middle is just say, well, it can be a little bit more open. For instance, Doctor Who.
It's right, because I would go into school and I wouldn't have a bloody clue who Doctor Who was. What a TARDIS is. Why are you getting in the TARDIS? Get out of it. The phone box. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
What's that called?
The phone box.
Is that TARDIS?
TARDIS.
Get me? Okay. So I thought the TARDIS was a little robot.
I thought the TARDIS was a robot.
So I thought the TARDIS was a what?
You know, there's
The
little
robot.
robots, like
You know, with the weird arms.
You guys did not watch Doctor Who.
Dalek! I didn't have a clue what Doctor Who was. And everyone was like, talking about, Doctor Who. In other words,
like TARDIS.
I'm watching.
When she was announced as a new Doctor, there was a bit of an uproar because Doctor Who or whatever, and then now that there's a black character that is now, a black actor that is now playing the character, there is a little bit of an uproar.
Let's take it to James Bond.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Idris Elba, like it seems.
No, Lashana Lynch.
Right. Oh, of course, yeah.
They didn't even call her James Bond. She was A007, an uncharacterized agent or individual. People lost their mind. There was no description or breakdown of who this agent was or is. They put her in that mould. Wasn't a Bond. People lost their minds.
Statistically, this is where people could say it's better, it's encouraging. The BBC 1 and 2, 12.5% of main characters are of ethnic minority, predominantly black or South Asian, 50% male, 46% female. 12.5 supposedly correlates to the 13% that are in the population of the UK, so you could argue that that's a good representation, that's a good consistency.
Sure.
But the counter-argument that goes with that is, what are these characters portraying? The news is so often associated with violence, crime and law-breaking. EastEnders, for instance, doesn't always paint the prettiest picture of its characters. What is more important, the quality or the quantity? Is it the quantity of people that are being hired as main characters, or is it the quality of them? Are they good people that represent in a good light?
It's kind of like building role models, isn't it, really?
Sure.
I would say quality to me is more important than seeing more of them, but because that would mean the quality, the actual roles that they're getting is worthwhile. It's not that, like we spoke about with jobs, it's not the token hire tick in the box thing. It's actual, they put some thought into it, they know about the repercussions it's going to have, and they are still doing this as to get the right reactions and move forward with it.
What kind of thing on TV did you watch more often than not, just growing up?
I'd watch a lot of black comedies like My Wife and Kids and Fresh
Oh, I
Prince
love
and
My Wife and Kids.
One-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one.
One-on-one.
And hang time.
Hang time. A lot of sport.
Watched a lot of Match of the Day.
Yeah.
So sport has the lowest ethnic representation in all sort of main categories of television.
Sure, it's got to be similar to the news as well. There's like hardly any.
Sure.
News
Was it
reports.
Trevor McDonald?
Yeah, Trevor McDonald. Yeah.
I stood next to him once.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
Where?
We were leaving. But you're right. When you see these people, you aspire.
It excites you, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. It sounds silly, but you feel like you know them. It's like that is the black news reader you've been watching for your whole life.
Yeah. Like my dad liked him. I think he's from Trinidad as well.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe that's why he liked him. Anyway, and then that kind of instills down onto you. Like you see your parents liking somebody, you like them.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to move on to jobs. Has there been an experience in your life in a job that you encountered racism, or you encountered any kind of sort of form of prejudice, discrimination towards you? That's why I looked at you. But
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, have I been hired here on merit, or are they ticking boxes? Like, I do feel that.
And that might not be their fault.
Might not be their fault. I've always believed I'd probably have a better chance if I did a phone interview. And a name like David Colfer, they have no idea. I don't think I've actually properly can say 100% I've had an experience in the fact that I've been hired because of that.
Yeah. It's tough to know.
It's tough to know.
I've come from a lot of corporate places that you're constantly code switching. The way in which I am at home, the way in which I speak with you guys, I'm different. The way in which I am around my black family, I'm changing. Do you know how exhausting that was? And for me, I saw no way forward in terms of that kind of career and can I be a manager? Can I do this? There was no one at that executive level.
My experience in work, I've always worked for smaller companies or medium companies. Yeah, so I've never actually even experienced any racial stuff at a workplace. I've been very lucky in that sense.
So a survey from The Guardian showed that 43% of B.A.M.E. people feel that they have been unfairly overlooked in a job process or promotion.
Sometimes it's to do with just like a confidence thing for myself, and nothing to do with my race. Like I know I'm amazing at my job, I'm really, really good, but I'm not very good at putting myself forward for getting those promotions, getting those pay rises and having those conversations. And so I know that's nothing to do with, like, they're not giving me money because of my race.
I'm just thinking back to the jobs I have and haven't got. There's 2 jobs I haven't got.
Yeah.
But I remember having a really good interview.
Yeah.
You know when you know.
Yeah.
And that was a good interview.
Smashed
and then
it.
they didn't give me the job, and the only thing I thought was there was one question they asked. They said, "Have you ever made a mistake at work?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to lie to you. Everybody makes mistakes." And that was the only thing I could think.
That's a great.
That's why I didn't.
That ain't why you didn't get the
Because you've just asked this, and now I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, these sons of bitches. Maybe, but we might have a biased approach now, thinking, we know. But there could have been somebody come in. They said, "You ever made a mistake at work?" And they went, they've lied through their stinking teeth. They might have been black, and then they just lied through their teeth. And they said, "No, never will. Give me the job." So we don't know.
We all know we were good enough to be in certain positions or roles, but for some reason we're overlooked. We can't say explicitly it's racism or it's box ticking or it's this, that, the other, but it looks mighty close to it sometimes. People are more worried of being accused of being a racist than being racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Fear drives hate, and then that's what's gonna. that's what's gonna cause loads of more issues, isn't it?
I can't believe
He's just gone.
In total, there are no leaders from ethnic minorities in 15 of the 39 departments analysed, and 12 of them only have one B.A.M.E representation at the top.
So are we having representation in the places that matter? Or are we having representation in the places that are
people can see
on the face of it?
So as I say, the top ones are education and charities.
See, that doesn't surprise me. I've always seen that. It's always like black carers, black nurses. Is that because they've been so shat on their whole life that they're just like, I just want to do good for people? Or is it that these are the only kind of jobs we can get?
Are we taught enough?
I think education itself is fundamentally flawed, and I think we have a bunch of incredible teachers who do an amazing job to try and get our kids to learn and to grow in the community, but I don't think they're being helped by a curriculum that is outdated. It doesn't look after kids who have different skills and different abilities. It's one size fits all, and one size doesn't fit all, and I think we all know that from what we grew up, how we grew up and what we grew up learning. So from my opinion, it's deeper than were we taught enough as youngsters. It's just overall the education system is completely flawed. Acknowledging differences in people and teaching us the histories that we don't know.
You only get a month of Black history in schools, and even then, it's only in certain subjects like history or whatever that you get like an hour a week or whatever.
And you have to sit there and watch Roots while everyone hears the N word, and you're like.
When you're younger, you get told to do all these other reasons, watch the news and all this type of stuff, so that you can have discussions, and when you become more rounded, they never guide you towards anything of any ethnic backgrounds. It's all based on white teachings and all this type of stuff, and if you do watch the news, there's just a load of crap on the news.
I don't remember a teacher telling me once the British Empire was a bad thing. Reading between the flipping lines.
Yeah.
Oh, when we went to India and we were really nice to all the people there, and then we left them alone to their own. No,
it's not a museum.
Oh, the crown jewels. Oh, we borrowed them. We ran off with them.
When do we return them, miss? They're just ashamed. They've just whitewashed everything. They're just going. They just sweep that under the rug.
Like, our school wasn't a bad school. Our school was a good school, but you couldn't feel like you could have a discussion with a teacher and kind of say what they were teaching was wrong.
It's even down to the news. There's nothing you can watch on TV today and know that you're getting a balanced argument. And it's all about gathering tidbits, which you're doing, gathering tidbits of information to make an informed opinion. That's all we can ever do, because we're never going to have all the information. And at school, they don't give kids enough tidbits of information to enable them to gather an opinion that they can discuss.
The closest thing I got to anything race in school was one of my teachers, Miss Nenguki, I remember her. She had cornrowed hair, and I did at the time. And I took it out, and it was like this for one day at school, and all the kids were like... At the end of class, she came up to me and she goes, "Do they not know your hair's like that normally?" And I was like... That's the closest thing I got to race in school, other than the racism.
You're so right.
It wasn't even a lesson, just because my teacher happened to be black, and just... understood.
Small tidbits like why people have cornrows. That's a 2-minute thing right there. A white girl at school. Lovely girl. I was good friends with her. And I posted something about cornrows. Them planting maps in their cornrows and food and seeds. And it was all about why. Did you know? Yeah, so people had cornrows because they could design escape routes.
Oh, right, yeah.
in their hair, and then they could tie needles or thread or seeds into their hair. She just wrote me one line back. She just went, "Carl, I'm so sorry, I never knew that." And she was always the girl who had cornrows after holiday. She didn't know.
Yeah.
That kid's just, it's out there, it's there.
No encouragement, is there?
It doesn't have to be about, it's not even all about race, it's everything.
Sorry, just to sort of make this about me.
Damn Melly.
So my earliest memory with somebody that was of a B.A.M.E. was actually whilst I was abroad in Maldives, and he was just lovely.
This guy's living life, man. This white man's got money. Where did I go?
Incredible. Maldives again, so
I'm
we can't cut it out.
not even going to explain the holiday.
Sorry, too good. Go ahead.
So basically, an old man came up to me with a coconut. He was like, "Oh, try it." And I was terrified. Not I have to say, because that sounded bad, but I was terrified of the idea of trying something new. And I saw this coconut, and this coconut was like hairy, prickly, and like he opened it up, and it was just all different. It freaked me out. I got so
It was
like
white on the inside.
I was like, as soon as you open it, I'll try it. Basically, I was so terrified, and this guy was like really, really nice, really smiley, and I just went, "Oh, I feel really bad." Like I remember feeling so bad about the fact that I'd just rejected.
How old were you?
I was like 4 or 5 maybe. You know, you just have random memories. This one really stuck out with me. Sort of moving on a couple of years later, as a kid, I watched WWE, right? And
of course,
Tattoo or a
I was about 8 or 9 years old, and my favourite wrestler was Bobby Lashley. And also around the same time, one of my favourite movies, because there was a lot of wrestlers in it, that was called The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
yes.
I absolutely adored the characters that were played by Terry Crews, Nelly,
I forgot Nelly's in it.
Yeah.
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, so that was exactly the name. And Chris Rock, fun fact, is the only movie I've ever cried at.
Really?
This is a fact. Yeah.
Oh, when they...
So from memory, so like growing up as a kid, and you know how like it's so fucking easy to do, like to absolutely mess up a kid, right? You know, it's like the easiest thing to do. Like, as a kid, my memories growing up were that I felt really guilty about rejecting the guy that was offering me a coconut. I absolutely loved Bobby Lashley, and I cried over the fact that Chris Rock's character died. There was one moment I was in Tesco's with my sister, and we were very, very young, and we were just speaking gibberish. You know, as a kid, you just make up words, right? I was doing that, and my mum sort of like, "You sound like you're being racist," and I was like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
So that's like the only sort of thing I ever sort of got told, like, "Don't do that." I guess from my perspective, and this is only speaking on behalf of myself, I was lucky. I wasn't taught anything. It was more just I had a liking for certain characters, and that sort of maybe stuck with me. So I feel like there needs to be a shitload done, even for people that are maybe on the side of like the anti-racist.
I think it's worth noting the absence of hate in an upbringing is miles further away than the presence of racism in a household. You were brought up in a space where you were free to make up your own mind. You weren't burdened with predispositions of people of colour. You were nurtured in a way that you could go out into the world, make your own opinions of people, and that's what flourished. Whereas even the presence of that little nugget of hate, like you said, it's so easy to plant a seed within a child's mind, and that can grow, and sadly that's what we see a lot. You were in a household where you were free to make up your own mind, and you were with an absence of hate, which is incredible. But I don't think there's a lot of that.
And that's why I think when we say the question of are we taught enough from a young age, and it's quite funny how we naturally think schools, education, representation, job, media, whatever, is it starts from your home.
Yeah, you need to, yeah.
I feel like the majority of us have a good experience or knowledge on this one. I don't think that it's important to just highlight that this happens here and nowhere else. But racism in sport. What comes to your mind when I sort of give you the topic racism in sport?
Yeah. They used to actually pick American football players and football, regular soccer. The amount of times we've heard that black players are kept in the peripheries of the team, in the wings, up front, at the back, whereas quite often coaches would favour the white players in the middle due to their perceived higher level of intelligence. It's scary. This goes all the way through to professional sports where they are picking people by their colour and are judging them to be a certain thing. Just mad. It's mad.
Yes.
South Asian players more into football because
Yeah.
they were always often overlooked.
Always.
No matter what, like their technical ability, they would often be overlooked just because they didn't fit the black category or the smart to the white category.
Cricket. I think it was in academies. It was something. The percentage of Asian players was off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
But if you looked at the professional cricketers in county cricket, why is there only a percentage, a low percentage of Asian cricketers as first class men's players? When I was 14, 15, just dribbling the ball, got tackled, bang. But you tackled me. You kicked me, and then you're racist. It was like, wow. No red cards, no kerfuffle, no hassle, barely a talking to.
It was a bad experience on the pitch, but then the support I got was just incredible. Well, Carl, you might have been there.
Oh, that was
and
bad.
so basically,
that was
after the game, there was a guy who I was playing against. Went to shake his hand, but he came and said to me, "No, I'm not shaking your hand. I'm part of the B.A.M.E." Went and told everybody in the changing room. Everybody was just literally shouting at him in the clubhouse. I felt that I probably shouldn't have done that. It's not helping, but it was so nice having that support
You should
behind me.
definitely done that. Yeah, he should have done
No,
that.
yeah, no.
I remember I got absolutely taken out in the box. No penalty. I don't win penalties. I've told Dan this before, and he witnessed it first time. So I don't win penalties.
I've seen a few of those too. You don't win penalties.
I don't win penalties. And I get yellow cards for getting fouled. It's a joke. Do you remember the final? The worst bit came of their player called me a he just called me a and he was young, and I was like, I could beat the shit out of you. And then my team were going, oh, what did he say? What was the word he used? I said, oh, you sure? Was it this? And I was like, he said it in English, like boldly to my face, and it's just like
London accent.
yeah.
Hard ER.
Yeah,
Mike,
I mean,
yeah.
like, there was just nothing really done about it.
Two major incidents. One, we went to a school. I think it was me and maybe one other black person running rings around and passing the ball, like chipping over their heads. There's only bigger and bigger kids that come. So this is like gone from like 10, 15 to like 20, 25 kids. Then the kids were getting taller and taller and taller. Then you started noticing little tackles, little kicks, little laughs. All of a sudden you're hearing, blackie, black, then kicks. Kids running up to you, saying and running away. Then the older kids going in and trying to hurt you. N-words, blackie, N-words, this, that, the other. Okay, second one, we were playing a whole huge match. N-words come out, slide tackles and AstroTurf, 22-man brawl, including the linesmen, everyone. So the school one was honestly one of the most jarring things ever happened. People trying to hurt you because of the colour of your skin.
One of our players was basically likened to, so he's a Japanese player. It was the first game of last season. It was a tense game, it was 0-0 with 10-15 minutes to go. Ricky had the ball under control. One of the fans basically said, go on, Taki Minamino, who was a Japanese footballer for Liverpool at the time.
Tasteless.
He doesn't look like him, not even that would make it fair, but like he doesn't look like him, and it's just like, well, just because he thinks, well, he looks Asian, he's going to be an Asian player now, Taki Minamino. That's obviously the only reason why he said it. The thing was is that like a lot of our players heard it, but didn't really know what to do. Because we have a young team for starters. So when this happened, went over to ref said, oh, who was it? I was like, I don't know, I'm looking at the game, but I can see 3 or 4 of the fans, and I sort of pointed in the direction of one of them. And I heard when the referee went over, he said, what do you want me to do? Take a fucking knee, right? Like that was his response to a referee going over and saying like, cut it in. Like,
Well, it's pretty clear who said it then.
Well, I was like, right, there we go then.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of thought as well, also, you dick. Like, what kind of response is that?
It's not just a racist, it's a stupid racist.
Wow,
they're not also.
After the game, we've won. We've got a late winner. We've won. He goes over to shake my hand and go, "Well played." I'm not fucking shaking your hand.
Yeah.
And then he did this and went, "Sorry," and like that was it. And I was like,
Too little, too late then.
well, back to the lad. The guy, Ricky, is the soundest guy, and he jokes about getting racial abuse all the time.
So that would just be the way he deals with it.
But the amount is because obviously growing up again in our area, I would like to say that we are quite a well-educated area. But I was at the pub and someone's going like that to him, and then he knows it. He knows it. But that doesn't make it all right.
No.
He knows him. He's doing this, and he's going up Konnichiwa and doing all this kind of stuff.
Mellors.
And I looked at him and I was like, are you okay? Like in this moment, if Ricky knows him and he's okay, who am I to go and be like, you're a dickhead, shut the fuck up? If I didn't know him and you weren't okay with it, then it's different. The second one, we had a black striker, a young lad, 17, 18 years old at the time. So it's just one of those typical Sunday league vicious physical games. Their captain has gone in for a shoulder with Ted, and the guys turned to him and said, fuck off, you black cunt. Ted just ran off. He just went, fuck this, I'm not playing. Ran into the changing room. I'm looking at the manager. Another one of our players is looking at the manager, and we're going, what do we do? Yeah. Do we stay on? Do we try and beat these twats? because I think they were 1-0 up at the time, or do we all walk off? And this was all before it became a regular thing to walk off a pitch. Yeah. And we all played on, doesn't matter, but we lost, and then we got into the change room after, and Ted's just not moved. He's just sat there the whole time like this. 17-year-old lad just been racially abused in like his third game of senior football.
Yeah.
I immediately remember thinking like, none of us have supported him.
Yeah.
Like none of us have supported him. A couple of games later, 2 of our players were racially abused by the same team. And we thought, right, enough's enough. We went to report them. It came to the date, it came to everything. Me, the manager, and Ted were all ready to go. It was in Southampton, we were all ready to go to court. And he went, I don't want to go. And we were like, mate, why not? And he sort of just went, I don't want to go, it's not going to change anything. If anything happens, he'll be banned for a couple of games and he'll be back and doing the same thing. I don't want to do anything. And I don't know whether he was intimidated or he just actually just had no faith in the whole system itself.
It's a lot. Someone sent a really kind of divisive tweet. They said, somebody needs to look at how minorities are penalised for fouls.
Gibbs Chamberlain.
Gibbs Chamberlain. Wow. Yeah. White guy, elbows guy in the face, goes down, blah, blah. Ref sends a black guy off.
So I said earlier, it's laughing. It's just laughing.
He just pulled him on for the other side of the pitch and gone, yeah, mate, last one. I think it has to be noted as well that there has been steps made, and I know this sounds ridiculous that it even needs to be made a rule. EFL have introduced the rule where every club must interview at least one ethnic minority in relation to appointing a new manager, and also with the FA increasing the minimum ban for racism to 6 games. Still not really enough. Because it literally is a hate crime. Things like that are showing that people are trying to make a little bit of a difference, such as taking a knee.
An overused great idea.
I thought that to begin with it sent a really powerful message. By doing it, it's like reminds people every single time because as soon as you see it, you think about it straight away.
I feel like it should be pulled down as well into lower leagues. If you're going to do it just at the top league for the TV or whatever, you get these racists on their knee, man. Get them on their knee and make them go.
I think it's absolutely hilarious how black people and people of colour are asking, hey, could you not racially abuse us?
Yeah.
When you hear people booing it, fuck you. Every single one of those boos hurts so much. They're not asking them to cook them dinner. They're not asking them to take them to their house and make them happy or give them all their money or let me borrow your wife.
To me, please.
All they were asking was taking the knee and saying, the racial abuse, stop. And in the terraces and the stands, groups and groups and groups of people booed. Children, women, men stood there and booed at people simply saying, please stop abusing me.
So, what is white privilege?
White privilege is a difficult one because even the very phrase itself can offend those who don't want to know more. Yeah. It's the ability to go through your life without knowing that at one point in your life you were a second-class citizen and were not eligible for the same rights as everyone else. It's the knowledge that you will never be called out and called up on the colour of your skin. White privilege is many things. I can't tell people what to think, but it's not something offensive.
I'm really lucky. Again, bring her up. She's so good because she knows she's had a white privilege life. It's not a bad thing for her. She's acknowledged had better opportunities and she feels that's unfair, obviously. What white privilege means to me, I think, like Carl was saying, it's not like an offensive term. Not trying to say you're a bad person because you've had white privilege. The way it becomes bad is if a white person then doesn't want to learn about anything and just is happy being ignorant with their white privilege.
You just want the ability to say, look, we're not in the same position as you.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of engaging with a police officer in a way that makes me feel comfortable. No. I am not in a privileged position where I can't be at my best. I need to be at 100% all of the time and beyond reproach if I can be.
You can play a football match without being racially abused.
And booted and kicked about the park.
You could always go into the pubs. You could always do this. You would get the cab first. And you know what? I'm half white. I get that slight bit of white privilege. If me and Carl went for the same job with the same stats, we interviewed the same, I'm more likely to get a job because I'm not as dark as him.
I only speak on things that are proven. Yeah. It's white privilege for a doctor to diagnose a white woman's pain during childbirth as acknowledged pain and treat it than it is for a black woman who's giving birth to be acknowledged as being in pain and having a complication. Therefore, she might lose her life in a higher percentage.
I know friends as well, African and Asian friends. In their culture, they use products to make their skin
well, not just Asia.
Because it is seen as a better model to be lighter, and that is privilege.
That goes back to people working in the fields with darker skin.
Very good point.
Having fairer skin was often considered to be more affluent person.
I would say that privilege, loosely defined, is some sort of unmerited or unearned advantage.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think that we've all experienced some sort of privilege, but I think that obviously with the circumstances, white people rarely have to think about their own race because we live in a heavily white community, country, everything. The examples I've got, I can, if I wish, be in the company of people of most of my race. I can get a job where I know that a lot of people will be white. I can apply for a job without the fear of racial profiling. If I want to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing a property in an area which I can afford without racial profiling. I can go to school and college without fear of any racial abuse. I can be pretty sure that the neighbours will be neutral or pleasant to me. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be harassed or profiled. I could turn on the TV or open a newspaper and see people of my race widely represented. I could be sure that my children will be given curriculum materials that testify to the existence of their race. I can easily buy posters, postcards, picture books, cards, toys and games featuring people of my race. I can be pretty sure that my voice will be heard in a group in which I am the only member of my race. I can walk the streets at any given time and not worry about anybody racially stereotyping me. I can listen to any kind of music without anybody being surprised that someone of my colour would listen to the music like that. I can go into a barber shop and find someone who can cut my hair with ease every single time. I can swear or dress in tacky clothes without people having to attribute those choices to my race. I can do well in challenging situations without being called a credit to my race.
That's a good one.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. I can criticise our government without being seen as a cultural outsider. And when I am told about our national heritage, I am shown that people of my colour are what made it is what it is. It doesn't mean that you haven't had any struggles, but it does mean that none of them were due to the colour of your skin.
I'm just hungry.
Bacon, I'll get you food. How's
Deal.
that sound?
No, I'll go.
Get some knickknacks.
Alright.
I like knickknacks.
I do.
Nice and spicy. I shouldn't be thinking I'm fine. I'm having a good time. I just didn't know where they were.
I completely forgot that I asked you, thank you.
I should probably. What are these ones?
Just soften it. You've had that gum here for the whole 2 hours.
Yeah, I've been chewing that.
No. Sure it's not a tooth. How are you still chewing that?
I don't know. No thanks.
Your gum.
Oh, good idea.
Giving you a yogurt.
Yeah.
My petty pollutant.
Lactose intolerant, bitch.
Why do I want it back? Who are you?
The funny part is recent history. The Queen's passing.
They still didn't give the crown back.
We heard about it when we were at a wedding and everyone got mad at me because I just said, oh, it doesn't really bother me.
I will put this in actually. Through everything over the last 70 years, however long, what women went through and the changes that suddenly women were liberated over that period of time, they had this one figurehead at the top who was the Queen of bloody England that was performing her duty to her country and her children and everything flawlessly, right? And that's a role model piece. But she was, for a huge period of time, a gatekeeper to a massive organisation who have stolen, raped and pillaged a quarter to half of the known world over the course of the last 200 to 300 years, and she stood as the face, as a gatekeeper to that organisation. You have to face facts of what she fronted up on, and she was a brilliant public servant in what she did. But look at facts, look at what she was the face of for 70 years.
Do you know what the funny thing about that is? There are going to be people out there that completely forgot what you said at the beginning of that. Because you spoke ill of anything remotely to do with her. They're going to forget all the nice stuff you just said regarding her.
Yeah. So there's one thing with racism, and you guys, this is, I'm so glad we got to this because I forgot about it. There's a thing about British decorum, respect and poise that makes it unseemly to talk about racism. You know the stiff British upper lip?
Yeah.
If you even suggest somebody was doing something racist or wrong or out of order, suddenly it's about the fact you're making a complaint. But if I wanted to make a complaint about something, it's more about the fact that I'm annoyed and I'm making a scene than it is about the true act of me being abused or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just what you mentioned. People hear everything I said about the empire, how much devastation it wrought across the world, how much stealing and everything went on, the colonization, the slavery, the imprisonment, the murder of generations, everything like that. they'll focus on the fact that I said the Queen was the gatekeeper of that.
Yeah.
Instead of the fact that I was cussing the administration,
Yeah.
and I was saying that I'm sure the Queen was a wonderful servant. You're spot on. It's more about, have I offended you by saying that you've just called me the N-word? You called me the N-word, but that's okay. I guess I'll suck it up.
I have anxiety in one aspect in my life, and that is meeting a lot of white people in one go. A room full of white people. I sit there and I go, which one of you is gonna be racist and make me look like the bad guy? Because I'm at a stage now in my life where I go, I'm not sitting here and taking it anymore. You will be called out, I don't care who's there. And I will call that person out, and I will be the bad guy for calling out the bad guy.
Because that's the thing as well. If you say something, then they'll say, "Oh, come on, mate." It's not,
Yeah,
we're not doing that bad.
and
It's
then
not
they
that
defend
bad."
themselves,
Yeah,
and that's the problem. Is the acceptance of why that thing they said is bad, and then it's a whole argument because they go, "Oh, why is that bad? I need to say this or that." That wasn't my white voice. That was my normal voice is fine. I'm just trying to tell you that I don't appreciate it. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just trying to make sure that's not said again tonight. That's not said again tomorrow. It's not said again next week, next year, whatever. I'm really actually trying to help you because another guy like myself might just go, "Fuck you."
You just obviously nail on the head. When I'm at work or when I enter this room, I am nervous. I'm constantly code switching.
What do you think would happen if you didn't switch it on at work? Just acted like you were acting at home. Is it kind of the fear of the unknown?
It's a great question.
Yeah,
I think we take on so many traits of what we think people in a professional setting want to see, and that professional setting is often made up of white, middle-aged males.
My own barbering thing, innit? That's it. I'm my own
And how do you
boss.
feel? How do you feel being outside of it?
I can just, I close that door and everyone can say what they want. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, it's just so nice. Like, I can just be me.
Oh, fantastic.
But even on the phone, like you get some bubbly enough people, and it's just a bloke looking for a haircut, and you can just be like, "Yo, what's up?" And then they're just like, "Oh yeah, this guy's bubbly. I want to come in." And it's like, finally being me actually pays off.
That's great.
That's really absolutely awesome.
Have you guys heard about who Edward Colston is? Bristol, he had a statue.
Pull it down.
Yeah.
Put graffiti on it. There was a guy that put his knee on the neck of the statue. For those that don't know, he was a slave trader. Brought down, chucked into the river. They said, "We're not going to put it back up." They put it in a museum, like lying there. But it was all as it was. Graffiti. They didn't clean it. It was graffiti. This is why I really like Bristol as a whole.
Yes.
So people could go around and have a look, and they put up, as you do in museums, a big billboard, sort of information packs and everything, and it was amazing. I went with a friend and we went and had a look around. Predominantly white people were doing that.
Yeah.
So in March 2021, there was a government-commissioned inquiry that concluded that there is racism in Britain.
No. What?
They wasted money.
I would never lived here. I knew that.
But it's not a systemically racist country that is rigged against non-white people. The report commissioned by government saying that there is no evidence of institutional racism currently in the UK, and that inequality is more likely to be caused by geography, poverty and culture than race, and that ethnic minorities are haunted by historic racism that no longer exists in modern Britain.
Oh my.
It's like putting the multiple sign the wrong side of the plus sign.
You said earlier that there's hardly any people of B.A.M.E in the government. So that was all done by white people.
No, it was worse. The firm that was hired to write the report, the one who's head of the firm is related to the government minister who commissioned to write the report.
So it's all just incest.
That's the end of part 2. Thank you guys for listening. Please do share and leave a comment below if you have any thoughts on what's been said. Join us again for part 3.
I don't know if part 3 is getting done today.
As we wrap up this little 3-part series where we discuss a few final things. Thank you again and take care.